Welcome to the Deskbound Therapy Podcast, hosted by David London. David is a posture and mobility expert, yoga teacher, and certified online trainer. This podcast is about empowering desk-bound professionals, how to live their healthiest life, and move pain-free. Now, let's dive into this episode.
Like you have to say, hey, from this day forward, I'm going to burn the boats and I'm going to take the island.
What up, guys? Welcome back to the Deskbound Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, David London, and today I'm with my buddy, Mckay. Super excited to have him on the podcast. A lot of, my close friends from Toronto in the fitness industry kind of know Marcus, have worked with him, and I've seen him on their stories on Instagram for some time. We connected, the last few months. And honestly, I feel like we're becoming pretty good friends just because we're so aligned with what we do with our businesses and health and fitness. And I'm excited to bring him on the podcast. I know we got a little sneak preview on IG Live a few weeks ago. And so we're going to kind of dig a little bit deeper. Today, we're going to be talking about how to build, a badass physique, how to build your dream body, but also feel great and move well. So why don't you just tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, thanks so much for the introduction. I'm so glad we were able to do this, man. All your posts are super inspiring, and love to see you as a thought leader in the industry, which is awesome. So hopefully we can provide some value today. So I'm ex-athlete as a high school student, and then used all that energy and picked up alcohol and drugs, and kind of went down this path of basically substance abuse, and really got into a state of what I call survival mode. I was depressed, anxious. The only time I would feel good is when I was, unfortunately using and drinking. And then, I found health and fitness kind of got back into athleticism and used health, fitness, sleep, recovery, nutrition, mindset, all these things to really create my life and create my body and really get out of that space so that I could thrive in life. And now I coach people on how to do that. And so I coach off of 4 pillars that I think we control in life is our recovery. Right? We control the way we sleep, the way we breathe, all those types of things. We control the way we move, right? Our training, the way we contract muscles, the way we move from a mobility standpoint. We control the way we eat. A lot of people don't think that, they find food as something that they're a victim to. But the truth is, it's like, you have the space in between the fork and your mouth to pick whether it goes in or not. We just need to help you with some habits around that to make sure that you're actually putting the right food in your body. And of course, there's the other thing is if I didn't mention it, it's breathing. And I think that's a superpower. If you can control and this in mobility, if you can control your breathing, you can control your state. And if you can control your state, you can not control everything in your life, but how you respond to things. I run a company called M Perform for men, and then I run a company called W Perform for women, and we help our clients, go from survival mode to thrive mode.
It's pretty dope, and I honestly didn't know your story until you posted about it. But when I saw that, I was like, I thought this guy was always in shape, but you've really made a whole 360 with that. Like what were some of the biggest challenges to get out of that survival mode? Because I know, like, mentally, it's like it's your mindset, it's your habits, it's all those things that you've encompassed in your business and how you coach people. But what were some of the key things that kind of helped you make that shift? Because I'm sure it was quite difficult.
Well, here's the thing is people can change in a state of inspiration and joy, or they change in a state of trauma. And I was in trauma, I was in a ton of pain, and a natural human tendency is to move from pain to pleasure. And so in this time, it's like, I just literally couldn't get out of bed. I remember like working in between university summers, staying at my parents and just being like stuck in my bed in the basement. And I just didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden, I can go outside and get some sunlight. I can train and I start to feel good. I can actually start removing some of the villains from my life, whether they're the substances, whether they're the people, right? Everybody's heard you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's so true. Right, we coach something called top 5 and bottom 5, and it's kind of it's not mean, but it's the truth. It's like there's 5 top relationships in your life that serve you the most. Those people inspire you. Those people are They have the habits you want. They motivate you, that kind of stuff. But then you have the bottom 5 of the people that drain you of your energy, the people that have the habits that you no longer want to have. And so having this differentiation between, okay, who are the top 5 people? I suggest, like, New Year's is coming up. Look at your book of your Facebook, your Instagram. It's like, who are my top 5 people that I want to spend way more time with this year? And who are my bottom 5 that I probably shouldn't give some energy to? So unfortunately, I had to say goodbye to some good homies, and they just didn't have the same values I did anymore, because honestly, 10 years later, they're still doing that shit on the weekend. They live a life where they work so that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they blow the doors off, and then they wake up Monday morning regretting it, and then just rinse and repeat. And I just wasn't about that life, and I had to make a change.
Yeah, and it can be really hard, I can imagine, to break that cycle, especially if you're not inspired and putting yourself around those type of people. Because I find, like, for myself, when I'm starting to, slip with my fitness goals, and I'm noticing myself being less kind of committed to it, I've started to, like, reevaluate who I even follow on social media. Like, I kind of want to see more, like, posts like yours, more of my coach, just kind of see more of that stuff. And when you're constantly consuming, like, for me, it can be, your top 5 connections online or in person. Like, I chat with a lot of my friends online. I call them every week, just kind of see how their workouts are going. Even if you don't have someone in person, I find, like, your coaching group is probably, like, a great community for that, because maybe there's not anybody right where you are in that space, but you can always, with the right resources, kind of create a community to support your goals.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, social media is a really powerful tool, to be able to connect at some level. There's nothing going to be better than, like, a nurturing relationship where you're with the person you care about. Don't get me wrong, but if you can join a community of people that already have the habits that you wish to embody, right? The best way to change your habits is to join a group of people that already have those habits, because you just rise to those standards. And so we've done that really well with our coaching programs, is that, yeah, we do a very individualized approach in terms of movement. Everybody's at potentially a different stage in their fitness journey, education, but it's like, how can we create a tribe that pushes each other? We do a monthly MVP, and that goes to the person who's most committed, gets the best results, and is the best team leader, in fact, right? Who's helping others. And people fight for this award, and it creates this competitive, amazing thing. So that's why, group fitness can be a really valuable thing, because that's why CrossFit is such a cult. Shared values, you show up, you kick some ass, you sweat. That's why team sports are so great. But the truth is generalized fitness gets generalized results. And I know we're going off on a tangent in terms of getting out of your habits, but I think it's really important for people, even from this episode, to just, like, evaluate the people in your life. Like, you don't owe anybody anything. Or maybe your parents were putting, but, like, if people aren't serving you and are just running you down and just take, right? People are, soul suckers, and if they're draining you of your greatness, you need to cut them out, and there's no way around it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's true. Like, you really have control over those things. And I think it's worth spending so much time talking about habits and who you're surrounded with, because it can really impact you. Like, if you're in an office space where, you're the only one stretching and everyone else makes fun of you, you really got to get out of there, or you got to inspire them, because, like, that's not going to be conducive to your goals. Or if you're one of the only ones in your friends group who works out or wants to, get more mobile, and they're not following with you, then they're going to fall behind. So you really got to, like, every time you keep growing, you do have to level up, and then your group has to level up. Otherwise, like, if you get to your fitness goals and then, you're not continually pushed by someone else, then you're never going to really continue to level up, and you might lose your progress. So a bit of a tangent, but I think that was worth talking about there.
For sure. Well, like, I just flew from Vancouver to Toronto, and in mid-flight, like, I got into, a modified pigeon while I was seated. Like, I started doing my, couch stretch. I started doing all these things, like some thoracic stuff, and people look around me like, good job. Nice. And so when you start, I was just, like, uncomfortable, and I had to do that. But the truth is like, when you start making progress, the people around you will likely come with you because they see you improving, they see your quality of life improving, and they want it for themselves. So if you go out for dinner and you order the vegetables and the fish and lean proteins and some quality olive oil, and people are like, oh, you ordered the salad, chances are they're reflecting their own insecurities and they think that they should have ordered it too. They're not judging you, they're judging themselves. Right? When you don't order the beer and you order, Pellegrino or sparkling water, whatever it is, people are like reevaluating what they're doing when they ordered a bottle of wine for themselves. So guys, it's just stop living through other people's eyes. This is your life, take control of it, and living a healthy lifestyle is such an amazing thing, in terms of confidence, in terms of longevity, in terms of life fulfillment, job performance, all these things. Like, it's not just about looking awesome, which we'll get into in a second, but hey man, like if I can add 15 to 20 years to your life, what would that be worth?
100%. And I think it's worth noting too, like, I know we want to talk about building that dream body, but it's true. Like, we want to also, like, I like how you talk about like being still feeling athletic, moving well, lifting weights, also, the mobility and the mindset stuff. Because I feel like when people first get into fitness, they think it's just going to the gym, eating healthy. But as you evolve and you become more seasoned with, working out, there's so many other things you have to consider. And I like how you've incorporated everything into, moving well, having the right mindset and strategies and all that. So it's not just, hit the gym hard and, blaming your clients for, not sticking to their plan, but actually getting to the root of things.
Well, here's the thing, is like, you control what's above the neck, what's below the neck changes.
Right.
So in terms of health optimization, if you look at, like, imagine Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in the beginning, there's mindset. There has to be a willingness to change. Like, you have to say, hey, from this day forward, I'm going to burn the boats and I'm going to take the island.
Oh, that's right? My fucking favorite quote. That's my favorite quote.
Yeah, exactly. It's Tony Robbins, right? Or
yeah.
No. Yeah. So if you want to take the island, you got to burn the fucking boats. And so that's why people just dip their pinky toe into the pool. And part of our process of bringing clients on into is like, I want full commitment. Like, you ready to burn the boats? Like, we get them to initial and sign off, and they're willing to do all these steps, because I don't care where you're at in your fitness. I just want commitment to change. And that happens in your mind. And so if you're a trainer and you're not helping clients with their behaviors and habits, you're missing so much. And that's what's broken in the fitness industry, is people are hiring trainers, think they're going to get a result. They're going to the gym for 3 hours, then the other 165 other hours, they have no support. They don't know what to do, and they're sabotaging their gains. So mindset first, then sleep optimization. Guys, sleep is the most underutilized performance enhancing drug on earth. Then nutrition, then training. That's how I look at health optimization to make sure my clients obviously get the best results.
And I feel like that's so important, because for me, I found my fitness, especially during the, the university years, as it got close to the midterms and as my stress really got up there, I found my willpower going down, and I was making, more poor choices and just doing, crappier workouts. And I find like helping your clients manage that stress too. And the breathing stuff is amazing, can really be helpful, because, when we're in such a stressed state, it can be more difficult to stick to your habits and really stick it out. But that's really where I find when you do grind it out and you burn your boats, that you really, grow the most and see the most change when you really get through those difficult situations.
Yeah, just commit 100%. Because if you're only committing 80%, it's like 80% is now your 100%. So people say, hey, I follow 80-20, their 100% is 80%. So when they fall short, they're actually hanging around like 60-70%. So yeah, I think commitment is we talked about the quote from Denzel Washington, is without commitment, you'll never start, but without consistency, you'll never finish. And it's the game. It's the long-term game. Okay, I got to make a change, and I'm prepared to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, and I really like I think about it every day, like falling forward, failing forward, whatever you want to call it, like just taking action. Even like you can be 100% committed, but you just gotta be okay that you might not get your goals right away with your fitness journey, or you might be struggling with, your sleep or your other habits. But if you want to get there in the long term, you've got to just keep staying 100% committed. Like, that's the hard part for people, stay committed even when you're not seeing results, to just kind of trust the process and keep going. Because especially with mobility, like, it's not something you're going to see right away. It can take even longer than trying to lose weight or build muscle, because we've been ingrained in these bad habits of poor posture and poor movement for so long. And it's more like, and that's where my clients come to me, and they're like, they'll do it for 1 week and they'll feel good, but then they'll stop. But what we really have to do is really stick out that long course and make it something more of how we feel, and starting to just notice those baby steps and continue to do the mobility. Like, I find too, personally, I got injured when I was in my best shape, pushing my hardest, because like when you're at that point, when you're at your peak, then you let some of the other habits come down. Like, you stop foam rolling as much, you stop stretching as much, because you're like, I'm good, I'm doing well, I'm benching the most I ever have. But that's really where you got to level up and start doing more mobility. And, you got to really enhance your sleep, your recovery, and your nutrition, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you want to perform like a Ferrari, you got to treat it like a Ferrari.
100%. Yeah.
People want to go as fast as Ferrari, but they're not willing to put on the ceramic brakes. They want to go with the plastic ones, right? If you want to go fast, this probably you need to have a conversation with yourself that let's say for the last 10, 20 years, I've been out of shape. I've had lacked mobility. I've had a poor relationship with food. I sleep 3 or 4 hours a night. We need to rewire, your behaviors in essence, your brain. And that's not a 4-week program. That's not an 8-week shred program. I'm telling you, and I'm sorry to say, life transformation takes about 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Right. And would you rather have a 2 to 4 year program or 2 to 4 year transformation that lasts a lifetime, or an 8-week program that gets you shredded, but then you just go back and you actually gain more weight, you actually get more unhealthy and more immobile?
I think it comes down to people just like really get excited about the results, but they don't really understand what it takes to build that Ferrari and how much, effort goes in. And I think I heard this on the podcast the other day, is like, when you build, a cheap foundation, it isn't going to last as long as if, you build a $7 million home versus a, $500,000 home. Like, the stronger foundation with your habits and all that, the more it's going to help long term. But another thing I wanted to talk about is, I really like how on your stories and on your posts, you talk a lot about like nutrition in the morning, and how that, sets you up for the day with making better habits and having good energy. So I was wondering if you could kind of discuss like your philosophy behind that, because I found it pretty interesting.
Hi, my name is Rene Diaz, and I am a software developer, which means I have a very sedentary 9 to 5 work routine. So we did the assessment. David helped me out, assess my mobility, my posture, and he prepared a work routine for me, like several different workouts, work out 4 to 5 times a week. It turned out to be a great result in the end. Like, mobility was definitely the biggest takeout from me in this process. Once I started doing the mobility routines with David, everything started to click, and my shoulders began to sit better. Rotator cuff movers started to fix. Everything started to feel a lot better when doing overhead movements. Pull-up strength improved a lot, and without pain, because that was an issue that I was experiencing. So I had a lot of pain in my back whenever like working up my upper body. So yeah, I mean, the biggest takeout from me from this process was the mobility work that David prepared for me, and this is something that I will definitely take forward in like as I continue to work out. So if any of you are feeling in pain, or are you training through pain, I strongly recommend you get in touch with David, and like he's a great resource for guys. He will prepare tailor-made routines for you, and will be able to assess personally what is the problem in your specific case. So if you're a lifter or you have a 9 to 5 that involves a lot of sitting, I strongly recommend hitting him up so he can prepare something for you and keep your posture and your body working well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you put past your lips first thing, given it's food, is gonna set up your neurotransmitters for the day. And what that means is that let's say I eat what's the regular Western diet, North American diet. It's bagels, donuts, cereals, these high sugar foods. So you're gonna spike your insulin, right, which is gonna give you a lot of energy really quickly, but then you're gonna crash 2 hours later, and then you're gonna crave those foods for the rest of the day. See, carbohydrates are non-essential macronutrients. We should earn them. You know, when we exercise, when we train hard, you know, maybe at the end of the day, we have carbohydrates to help us serotonin to help us sleep and stuff like that, right? To calm us down. Have you ever guys noticed that? You know, Thanksgiving just happened. For the people in the States, Thanksgiving is going to happen. You're going to feel really tired after you eat that big meal because you're full of, you know, you're full of carbs. It's what it is. And so why would you start your day like that? When I start my day, I want fast acting, you know, good solid energy, like from coconut oils, from maybe you're cooking with, you know, some ghee or grass-fed butter. You know, maybe you're eating, you know, high quality meats or game or something like that, and some quality nuts, avocados, those types of things to really give your brain sustainable energy. So coffee and your Starbucks treat every morning is the reason you're likely getting overweight or feeling like crap, right? You're starting with this high sugar dose. Your joints suck because you're putting sugar into your body, like a whole shit ton of sugar. And then at the end of the day, you're starving because you haven't eaten anything. You haven't eaten anything of substance. And then you go nuts in your cupboards. So, you know, a good rule of thumb is start your day with high protein, high fat. You know, I coach the meat and nuts breakfast, or whether it's eggs, whether it's, you know, if you don't have a lot of time, like a high quality protein shake with some avocado and some greens in there, that would be great. And then for lunch, you know, again, like earn your carbs. You know, we should really just be prioritizing, you know, vegetables first and protein. You know what I mean? It's like about being a vegan. Sure. A vegan and a carnivore, right? Like eat a shit ton of vegetables and hit your protein goals each day, and then use carbs to refuel your workouts to help you sleep, as a way of, like, you know, I wouldn't say rewarding, but just managing your body and your brain appropriately.
Yeah, because you really don't want to crash the second you get to your office, or whether you're working from home. Like if we just go for those, you know, those high rewarding, low satiating foods, you're just going to crash. You're not going to be productive at work. And then chances are, then there goes your chance of really, you know, getting some work on your mobility throughout the day. Like how you eat affects not just, you know, your workouts, but it affects everything in your everyday life, like your cognitive function, all that. And I find too, like, yeah, I usually have the majority of my carbs, like, you know, 3-4 o'clock before my workouts, and then like after dinner. And I find this to be, you know, the most effective because, you know, I'm productive. I'm working all day long. We're getting things done, and it keeps me alert. Like I find, like, since I made that shift, I really only need, you know, a little bit of caffeine in the morning to get me going, versus having the carbs and trying to, you know, get more caffeine than more caffeine. And it's just not good for your body at all.
Well, here's the thing. If you need caffeine to get through your day, something's a problem. You know, that's just a fact. Is caffeine is it's a performance enhancer. Like it's a nootropic. It's a drug. You see people be late, 30 minutes late for work, standing in line for Starbucks for like, just, it looks like a bunch of, I'm sorry to say, addicts waiting for coffee.
Yeah. 100%.
It is like, look at a coffee shop in the morning. Is like, people depend on it. And if you can't go through your day without coffee, and I'm not saying it is a superfood and it can really help you, but let's look at some other levers to pull, whether it's sleep, nutrition, hydration, those types of things. Like coffee should be an add-on. Coffee should be like, hey, I want to go crush a workout. Hey, I've got, you know, I'm going to go do some deep work on my business, some deep work at, you know, where I'm working. Let's get a cup of coffee, get really dialed in, get focused, because it helps with drive. It helps with that kind of stuff, but it's not a means to just keep you alive. Like, imagine that you just depend on, and this is the truth, is people just depend on a coffee in the morning, a coffee around lunch, and a coffee late afternoon. And so by the time they go to sleep, they have so much caffeine in their body, right? Like I would advise that this is the 10-3-2-1 policy is no caffeine 10 hours before bed, right? No food 3 hours before bed, right? No work 2 hours before bed, and no screen time 1 hour before bed. And that should really set you up for high quality sleep.
That's definitely an interesting strategy because, people have trouble guarding their time and guarding their schedules. And that's all really comes down to the habits as well. But if we don't know how to, guard our time and guard our schedules, and every time that trigger comes, someone invites you out for lunch instead of you going for your lunch walk or mobility, or someone invites you for lunch and then you kind of stray off your plan, like those triggers can really affect things. But by guarding your time, whether it be for like sleep and around eating or mobility, can really help you get closer towards, your dream body and your fitness goals. So like scheduling all those things is super important. And then I find too, as you get more to get dedicated to it, like just as you said, like you can't live for someone else, and you have to learn to say no to some of those things. And even if you're like tempted to, play some video games before bed, just kind of looking at the bigger picture. And I like that post you made on Instagram about like tips to have more energy and like the different types of breaks people can take. I thought I find a lot of the advice you give is pretty actionable in that regard too.
Appreciate that. Well, what's the point of having all this information in our brains that people can't use?
Yeah.
Like that's, or like, like all the information you need in the world is at your fingertips. You just have to consume it and then start to take action on it. That's it. What we're talking about is maybe we have a different approach. We've been able to package a bunch of amazing things into one spot. But the truth is like, I've learned from mentors. I've learned from reading. There are unique ideas that I've come up with, but the truth is you can probably find it on the internet. It's just up to you. We talked about mindset and taking action. That's on you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's, I found too when I started off working out, like I didn't have a coach, but I was doing P90X and I felt like I had my community there every time I worked out. But when I went to the gym the first time after I got in my parents' basement, it was a big shift. Like I started making more friends in the gym, but you start to like lose a bit of like what you're used to. And like they were motivating me, Tony Horde and all the guys in the video. And then like that shift where you have to kind of find your community again is super important. And even now, like my coaching online, I do still do one-on-one, but now I have more of a group model where everyone, we have group coaching calls, we check in with each other, we support each other. And I find, people are more committed and more adherent to their mobility because we got so many like-minded people. I got a great group of guys going through the same, similar goals together, just trying to, improve their mobility and their posture so they can work out pain-free. And I generally work with, men and women under 40, trying to really making sure that we're not going through that decline when we hit 40, but we're moving well, we're pain-free on our way. And, we're aging well, we're staying in shape. So like, I find the community is huge, and even has made me a better coach because I'm learning to, be able to coach the beginner and the expert at the advanced person at the same time has really been a fun step for me because we're able to, to work with everyone and have that community. I think it's really awesome.
Well, yeah, we talked about that. Is just being around people you aspire to be like. Is model the mentor. That's it. And if people can be around, because I'm not going to bash F45s or any of these group models, but some of these places, like you have a certain standard of health and fitness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a generalized approach. Yeah, some people might look great and move great, but I'm telling you, every single person in there is dealing with a knee or shoulder something because they don't work on mobility. But then you go to like an elite facility. I'm talking like a high performance where there's some people there that, health and wellness is the top priority in their life. Then you walk in there, you're like, oh my God, my standards need to come up because this is what's possible. These people are really setting the tone of what, the human body can do. This isn't just, I hate the word workout because it has the word work in it.
Yeah.
It sounds laborsome. Oh, I got to go work out after work. It's like you're stacking so many negative things on it. So that's why I coach training. You train for something. right? You train for purpose, you train for intent, you train for this inspirational person you want to become. And so that's why you go to a gym and you have a customized program, is you're training for something. You're not just showing up for, you know, a drill sergeant to yell at you and play loud music and you feel like you exerted something. I think a lot of people confuse intensity with productivity. That unless they're going balls to the walls and sweating, you know, 3 buckets of sweat, that's considered a good workout. But your knees still hurt. Your back is in pain. You're still overweight. Like, what's going on here? You know, you sleep like shit and then you train your ass off and your physique isn't changing. What's the lever we have to pull? You know, I can get you breathing. I can actually get you doing less and getting better results. You just don't know where to put your direction because the effort's already there.
And I think having a plan is so crucial too. And I like how you with your clients focus on, you know, mobility and functional exercises. And I like some of the other day you shared a video and you're doing that really cool lunge variation that was kind of athletic. And I thought that was cool because we need to like I like at my local gym, if you see some of the trainers, like the stuff they do with their clients is unbelievable. Like we're still doing crunches. It's 2021. Like I like how you're really trying to like get people to move well and look good, because there seems to be a disconnect with a lot of other people out there when really, you know, like a lot of other trainers like I talk to don't really know that much about mobility. Whereas coming from your background at that elite gym, you really help your clients move well and look good, because, you know, that's what's going to be functional. Like we're working with adults or kids or parents, etc., like professionals. Like we need to be able to, you know, bend over and you know, not hurt your back playing with your kids, right? Like that's what a lot of the people I work with are just want to be able to, you know, move well.
Well, it's a shame because, you know, like I coach hot yoga a lot. Is okay, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, you're going to do, you know, 15, 20 minutes of yoga, or you're going to go to this class. Because there's a couple of reasons for that. Is it gets them mindful. Because when you're sweating your ass off and you're on one foot and your mat is slippery as hell, you can't be anywhere else in the world or you're going to fall flat on your face. So it teaches you about being inside your body. Like that's what we coach at M&W Perform, is like, we want you in your body while you're training. It's not about just lifting the weights. It's about, okay, let's understand what's actually happening. If I can work my muscles in isolation, then I can work them in integration. That's why people really focus, like functional fitness was such a huge thing. It, you know, at Equinox, we were swinging kettlebells, we were doing all this cool, it looks flashy. But does it help people, you know, get out of pain? Does it help people understand how to activate their glutes when they sit all day? No, it doesn't. So that's why, you know, I focus so much on mobility, is because I want clients to learn how to activate a muscle in its fully lengthened position. So if you're at the bottom of your squat, your glutes are in their fully lengthened position. If you can't contract in the bottom of your squat, you're not going to grow your ass squatting. Like it's just, you know what I mean? So let's get you in the bottom of your squat. I want you to hang out there for 5 seconds. It's going to suck, but then you don't gain any, you know, kinetic energy. You have to use high threshold muscle fibers to push yourself up. Then all the next day you're like, hey, Marcus, I can't sit on a toilet. Not to say that's a good thing, but just teaching clients to hang out where they're weak. Oh, I want to grow my chest. Okay, cool, man. Don't we all? Let's see how your shoulder works. Oh, you can't put your hand over your head? All right, that's going to be a problem. Okay, let's open up your lats. You know, let's get your, you know, mid trap and your rhomboids, everything firing, get you strong externally, right? Because if you want to grow your pecs and your back isn't as strong as your chest or stronger, you're going to be limited on that development of the muscle. You see muscles work in antagonist and agonist. When one's pulling, or when one's pushing, one's pulling, and vice versa. So you want to think of your muscles and are just on your bones as just like these elastic bands. And when you can balance those elastic bands, that's when you have harmony in your body. that's when your muscles can really start to develop to their highest extent in terms of performance, strength, and hypertrophy, which is muscle gain. So if I can't coach someone to be structurally aligned and have amazing mobility, we're going to run into a stop sign on their journey.
Yeah, and I think it's really good. And I find like, especially like understanding where your goals are and all the steps you need to take to get there. Like I work with some guys who are, into athletics and stuff like that, but they're also desk bound. So like they want to be able to, improve their squat and their deadlift. But man, if their hips are wrecked, then we're really doing them a disservice. So, just like if you want to build a bigger chest, you got to open up the shoulders and lats. But like we also got to, if you want to pull some big weights and move well, you got to, get those hips moving. And I think it's really good that you also kind of are educating the listeners and your clients about, why we can't just bench. Like everyone wants to have a big bench, but you got to understand, like I've had a ton of injuries just being like ignorant early in my fitness career, just hammering that bench and only doing pull-ups. So definitely know what you're talking about there.
Well, here's the thing, like you can't touch your toes while you're deadlifting from the floor.
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? It's people are using loads, whether it's on their bench, on their deadlift, or their body weight at the bottom of the pull-up to use the load to get into a position that they actually can't control. That if the load was removed, right? That's the difference between active and passive mobility, is you should only be working in your active range. And your active range is what you can control with muscles. So people think about mobility as like, oh, it's flexibility. Oh, I just stretch it. No. I want you to use the muscles to get into that range of motion and control, because that presses the save button in your brain to say, oh, cool, I can move here. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now go load it, encourage that pattern. And then all of a sudden your mobility goes through the roof.
Yeah, like you need like where your cold mobility is. I wouldn't say like as soon as you wake up, but like an hour after waking up or so, like after you shake it out a little bit, like your cold mobility is really where you have that control and you have that strength. Like for me, like my squat is really good in the morning, but if I do a little mobility and then I load it, it does feel a lot better. So there's like a little bit between, where your cold mobility is like fresh off the bat before you start like a yoga class, for example. And then your flexibility is, afterwards you feel pretty loose. But then it's the difference between just hanging out on the squat and rounding your back and being able to, sit upright, feel all the muscles working and pull you into the movement. Because we're really like, I've been reading a lot of people talking about this more online. It's something I tell my clients about is like, you can't move where you can't move, right? And if we don't own those ranges, like you were talking about, you are increasing your risk for injury. And that's when a lot of injuries happen, is when we haven't built up the tolerance of those tissues there. And I really don't like the old philosophy of, where, people will just get injured and, they'll injure their shoulder and, we'll treat those symptoms. But if we're not really, building, looking how things work surrounding there or looking at, the mobility, then we're really not going to be, making progress long-term, and things are just going to come back eventually.
Yeah, man. And you brought up a good point. It's like, okay, so what are the foundational? We need mobility, then we need stability. And people want to develop their muscles. It's like, if you don't have stability and mobility, it's like firing a canoe, or sort of firing a cannon out of a canoe, right? You just don't have any contraction. Because if you're unstable, let's say you lack shoulder mobility and stability, and you want to develop your pecs. If you are unstable, your brain is going to say, hey, pec, don't work as hard as you can because we might get injured. Right? That's your brain. That's a protective device. So if you can bring up your stability we talked about, you are going to build better tissues, better muscles, because your brain now says, hey, I'm safe here. I can start to contract at a high level. So that's why you see people like wearing these cushy shoes and doing all their squats, and they're wondering why their lower body isn't developing. It's because your brain's like, oh man, we're not safe. Like Bosu ball squats. What? I don't know in any athletics why we would do that. I mean, that's just a circus trick, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But like try and train barefoot, try and train with Vivos or Metcons or something that's really hard that allows your feet to do what they need to do. Right? There are these amazing things that, we used to climb trees. Right? They have more sensory perceptions or sights than our hands do. So if you want to build your lower body, get strong and stable and mobile ankles and feet. It will help you like I have ski boots for ankles. I was genetically cursed that my ankles just don't move. So every single time I need to go and do lower body, I got to spend some time, rolling out the calves and making sure that the ankles can do what they got to do. Just to hammer the message home is mobility is often holding people back from building their dream physique. And especially men ages 25 to 40, even into 50s, everybody has bicep tendonitis. Their pecs are overdeveloped compared to their posterior chain. They don't know how to balance a training program. They don't know that, hey, we should probably be pulling twice as much as we're pushing. Like all these simple tools, they're not like, you coach the lunchtime stretch. I coach Netflix and stretch. These little habits, like, wouldn't it be great that while you're watching a TV show, you're stretching, you're improving your mobility, you're actually turning on your parasympathetic nervous system to help you sleep, so that when you go hit the gym the next day, you're actually better prepared? Like, that seems like a high impact habit, doesn't it?
100%. That's good too. I really like that. I used to do that a little bit. I used to foam roll before bed while I was watching TV. But recently I've been just kind of sitting on the couch watching TV. So that's my takeaway from today. I'm gonna get back to, trying to do some Netflix and stretching, because it is good. It's relaxing. When you relax, you can get deeper into those ranges. I really like that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So what are some ways people can learn more about your MW Perform program if they're interested in getting in touch with you and connecting with you on social media?
Yeah, so my website is www.marcusmckay.co. And then I mostly post on Instagram, so it's just Marcus Mckay. That's my username. I throw up content almost daily in terms of training, nutrition, mindset, and recovery. And I appreciate the opportunity, man. I love what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the future on some cool projects.
Yeah, man, it was great to have you on here. Everyone, definitely check him out. Also, if you're in my newsletter, I'll be sending out links to his website, and I'll have the link to his website and Instagram in the show notes below. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Hoping to have you back on sometime soon and connecting in person in the near future. Thanks everyone for listening. If you joined this episode, please go ahead and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate it, and it helps the podcast grow. And before I forget, you got to stay flexible. Until next time.